things like the Zoe, which he has played quite a bit of. I wonder what it will lead eStar to first picking. You could go for something, I was gonna say like a Syndra, but OMG have of course banned that out. So I feel like all of these mid lane bans aren't gonna equal out to a mid lane first pick. If OMG don't ban the Olaf here, that would probably be the most likely pick for eStar.
Yeah, because even when Akali's left open at the moment, teams are not prioritizing that first pick unless there's someone who feels confident enough. You mentioned the Olaf, the other first pick worthy has been this Kai'Sa, which they're gonna take away.
Yeah, and we actually haven't seen either of these players play the likes of Samira yet, so I wonder if that is in Eric's wheelhouse. Eric, like we said, has kind of bounced back and forth between just going for the Jhin or going for the Kai'Sa Aphelios kind of setup himself. I think along with Pantheon, Olaf is really the other S-tier jungler on this patch, as we've seen. Both of those champions have been banned every game in LCS, and we pretty much have consistently seen a trade here for LPL. But with all these mid laners banned, it does seem like Wuming's going to go, hey, I am just going to pick up this Orianna. It is a very safe blind pick. We know it's going to do good in the isolated 1v1, and it's going to give them at least tools to play around later in the game.
Also, Irma's second most played champion too, so a nice little takeaway from the mid laner who's only played 2 to kick us off. 3 of Syndra, 2 of the Orianna, as mentioned before. His champion that he's actually undefeated on. So again, key takeaway here is they pair up the Alistar. Now, this could lead OMG to go into something like the Samira, depending on the CC that we've talked about has always barred her.
Yeah, well, eStar obviously already having the Kai'Sa pick. We're definitely looking at jungle here for the side of eStar. Graves is open. Yep. The Olaf is the one that I've highlighted that I still want to see played. But, of course, both of these junglers very proficient on both. I mean, Hacker, back in the day, was very much an Olaf player. I remember thinking back to even the likes of 2019, I think it was one of his best champions, of course, when he was back on the Suning roster.
Yeah, it's something that he partnered a lot of the time with his pocket pick Kha'Zix if that ever came out. I'm going to progress forward because eStar right now hovering over the Renekton. And this would be something that'd just be blind, willing to pick up in that top lane.
I think it's fine. We've seen that ZS isn't really a massive strength for the side of eStar. For OMG, if you do want to go for a decent matchup into it, you can just pick something like the Gnar, which, despite the fact that there's been a lot of controversy around this pick in the community, has actually done quite well in the LPL. It is our most picked top lane champion by far. It's sitting at a 67% win rate, but OMG going to hold that pick since the top lane pool hasn't been pinched, and we are going to see Eric pick up the Samira for the first time. Okay,
there we go, partnered together quite nicely, and with the Orianna as well. We're already building up quite a lot of team fighting there for OMG. Around these neutrals, most likely. What do you want to see banned going forward? Because we still don't have a jungler for OMG, but crucially, no support or mid laner for eStar.
The thing for OMG is I would like to see them keep banning out mids. I feel like banning out supports is quite hard when there are so many options available. We've seen the Maokai be an answer to the likes of Alistar and does quite well into the Samira. Obviously, Leon is still open. Nautilus is still there if you want to go that way. Gragas. So banning out maybe something along the lines of a Victor. The pool in mid lane is going to be extremely shallow. Set technically does count as a bit of a mid lane ban since he's a flex, though I do expect that one's much more targeted at Xiaoxi.
Yeah, you got to assume that, you know, Xiaoxi is the strongest member on this roster. I mean, we already said you don't have to assume, just remember what we told you. He's a big key factor. He's already taken 2, maybe 3 bans if you want to count Pantheon. The Gragas as well has been a flex, but on this side would be the support, so limited options now available.
Still, I feel like eStar have more than enough options in terms of support pick.
As you said,
mid lane's definitely going to be where we're looking. For OMG on 4, I think the most likely thing, the fact that they've already showed both jungle and top lane, it doesn't mean too much because you're going to get a counter pick technically regardless. For OMG, maybe you do just pick up something along the lines of the Graves here. We've already set it up. It's one of Aki's more played champions. I don't necessarily think you need to fit an AP jungle into your comp. They might go for it now that they've shown the Aatrox, depending on the mid lane matchup. If Orianna does have something favorable that he can push, it's not necessarily going to be about setting up those ganks mid, but just allowing for the likes of, you know, if he does want to go back to that Talia or Nidalee type style, just to facilitate invades into the enemy jungle.
Okay, we'll see, because at the very least, Aki gets that jungle last pick, which is not something we normally see here in the LPL. Mid laner getting it picked up now for Irma, and we got the Azir with Xiaoxi actually showing us something that we've seen very rarely, but mainly from him.
Yeah, he's definitely played it once, and both compositions kind of rounding out in ways we would expect with how bans have gone thus far. For the side of eStar, it has the ability to just kind of jump in on the backline, as we see from the first 3 picks coming out along with the Rakan, but it also can have a bit of a disengage role to it if Samira jumps in. Obviously, you come in with the Emperor's Divide coming out from Irma. It will be a bit of a slower lane there in the mid, and I just want to see, does Aki lock this one in? We've talked about him extensively as really enjoying these AP junglers.
Lilia.
Doesn't go for the Talia, but does go for the Lilia. And again, this isn't necessarily about like comboing with your mid laner or your soul laners. I think it's about, okay, pushing out, allowing Lilia to have that fast clear that she really emphasizes. And then it's all about the 5v5s. Pretty much all about 5v5s for both sides. So we're going to get a lot of dragon fights, Rift Herald fights, things of these natures. Might be a bit of a slower early game, but we're definitely going to get some action, you know, kind of bombing our screens at some point.
Because we know a lot of the time we're not going to be talking about mid 2v2 when you have double AP, when you don't have too much CC until 6, and you know, with Azir, you already mentioned the Emperor's Divide's a big tool that Hacker would have to utilize. So the fact that we are going to be a little bit slower within these lanes, Lyric, is something that we have been seeing. You know, farm up to the first mythic item and build your strength, then move into these first or second dragons, depending.
We might see some early action on the top side, Renekton versus Aatrox, a matchup that's, you know, been around for a long time. I will say Aatrox fares a bit better now with a lot of the item changes and can kind of survive early if you can get to that Gore Drinker pretty quickly. You obviously have mixed damage in the top side for the likes of OMG, though eStar's 2v2 top is nothing to kind of scoff at, but I think the other 2 lanes will be quite slow.
Okay, well, something the audience probably doesn't want to hear, but I do like you pointed out the top side. I'll keep my eyes open, see how ZS can set that up. But at the very least, no new matchups we're really experiencing here. We don't see Azir too much, but Irma running this into Wooming will still be something we've seen in the past with Comet. As ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to Summoner's Rift once again. OMG and eStar, your warm-up, but also your nice little catapult into LPL Week 3. Lyric, we're in Week 3, I don't know how. As I hear the gyros. We're in Hongqiao, we're in Shanghai with our audience.
One thing I really want to keep my eye on is what build Chelsea goes for. He has already played this champion, and he did build the Imperial Mandate. I have seen more and more people in solo queue on Rakan going for the Shirelia's Battle Song ever since it did get the buff to 60% movement speed. Obviously, just kind of helping your team and enabling the engage. Maybe not necessarily needing that against OMG's comp, because when you see Samira, Alistar, Aatrox, they obviously already want to come into you, so you don't really need to feel any agency to just run into OMG's comp.
But I will say, you know, on your note of Shirelli is like that 60% is a huge buff, extra 20%. But more than that, the composition from eStar and how it can push forward Olaf, Renekton, Kai'Sa, it's something that would be utilized so well. So I like that little item note there. We can pivot to that if we get that first mythic out from the Rakan. Of course, support mythics are slower. But something that's not slow is the clear from Aki. He's clearing towards his top side now, starting at Raptors, where you can see Hacker is also on the blue side, potentially heading towards the bottom lane.
Yep, so they are both mirroring starts, right? We're going to get full clears towards the bottom side of the map. I don't expect Aki to go for any kind of cheesy top lane level 2 gank. You could, but it's so high risk, kind of high reward, so it could work out. But when we see Lilia, right, it's a lot more about kind of farming up, getting to your item spikes. We've been seeing a lot more of the Moonstone Renewer, which was something me and you were talking a lot about in the preseason that we were seeing in solo queue, and is very good. A lot of conversation online as well about also going for the Staff of Flowing Water, which just pairs so well with it. We will see if Aki goes with that build here today. It would be quite interesting just to see all the healing and movement speed coming out across the side of OMG.
Especially when you talked about, you know, the team fighting availability for, well, not just OMG, but for both these teams. And as we look at our lanes that we expected to see with the push in the bottom lane, let's just remind our audience that, you know, again, it is waiting for the fight around the Dragons. It is these full 5v5s where team flourish. So I want you to walk me through a little bit more about the interactions we can expect to see and where both teams kind of have an edge over each other.
Early game, I don't expect to see too much. We will see Azir pushing in the mid lane pretty consistently. Despite the fact that a lot of people think of Azir as a late game scaling champion, which he obviously is, he does have a lot of early game wave clear and prio, so he will sit up for Hacker if Hacker does want to look for any early invades. So we probably will see Hacker be able to just take this bot side scuttle for free, especially now with Xiaoxi and Rat showing on our screens. But again, in terms of early gank setup and early action, we don't have too much setup other than in the top side of the map. For Rakan, you will have pressure up against the Alistar, can pretty much just spam Qs. Very easy to try to bait out the Alistar combo. He doesn't really want to throw out his headbutt pulverize onto the Rakan, since Rakan can always just E away.
It was a fun interaction to watch. We just see both junglers going for Scuttle meanwhile, though, so nothing happens here apart from backing from Hacker going to be a little bit quicker than Arky. Of course, clearing out the ward on the bottom side. They spotted out with the Scrying Orb on top that Arky was heading towards the top side. No camps available on this blue side jungle, so they have a pretty good idea where OMG's jungler is.
Both junglers should realize that the other one did full clear from bot to top, as Xiaoxi just going for a bit of a trade, just saying hello. Ooh.
Maybe Colt is a little bit better. They get the immobilization. Rat getting low as well. Ignited down. Level 3 on the Kai'Sa trying to kite back, but the damage actually returned onto our Eric. Good dodge from the W. Colt stands in front and Eric survives.
And eStar wasted 2 summoners to where OMG only using 1, and that was the interaction we talked about earlier, right? Xiaoxi going for this trade, does E back, sets up for Colt to get a nice headbutt pulverize onto the Kai'Sa, which is the target he's looking for. And then gonna be, again, a bit of a win for the side of eStar, not in terms of health, but in terms of summoners. Eric's still holding onto that heal.
Remember as well, Xiaoxi went Spell Thief's Edge in this lane instead of something like the shield to heal up from minion kills. Bit of sustain here available as Eric dodges away from Xiaoxi's engage. The Grand Entrance does a bit of damage too, so Cold now low, dangerously so. Heal coming in and Hacker's ghosted in. He wants this kill, but it's going to be blocked out, of course. Still Samira's W, a pain in the butt.
That's so nice. Nice pressure coming up from eStar's bot side. Aki not really able to do anything in response. He will just be hovering nearby. We have been seeing a lot of junglers like Olaf preferring the Ghost over Flash. Again, Ghost obviously active for 10 seconds, getting a lot more value out of it, especially when you are so durable with your new build, Sterix, Gage, Gore Drinker. I don't feel like you feel too much threat coming out to where you would need something like a defensive Flash.
I think also to notice, Shockwave sitting in the mid lane. That's just to clear the wave and put pressure onto Irma. Try and get it back nicely done here from Wooming. Or maybe set up for the Dragon here, Lyric, because there is pathing coming through. New has just used his TP up in the top side, as ZS has done the same.
And both top laners, ooh, ZS okay. Going in aggressive.
Yeah. It's Dominus time, World Ender as well. I think New's okay, though. He'll be able to sustain most of this up. ZS is waiting for his cooldowns to come back up with the Slice and Dice. Waiting patiently while New is running out of the World Ender. Dominus going to do the same, and that was so anticlimactic for nothing. Unless ZS continues to die.
Hysterics, both top laners also first spot plated steel cap, so
yeah,
we're not going to see those solo kills come out. ZS, though, is going in for a bit of a better trade, but they walk out even at the end of it all.
Yeah, 2 turret shots. Okay, well, let's just back and we'll wait. Next time, lads. Next time, we'll see what happens. At the very least, ZS has a CS lead up in this top lane, so even so, he's going to get the push out here, Lyric, and it feels like he's in a better position being the Renekton.
Yeah, and going back to your point about early Drakes is the fact that we've seen both junglers just kind of heavily prio full clearing towards bot side. I don't necessarily feel like either side takes Drake fast enough to where the other side wouldn't be able to respond and potentially pick up some of their own kills.
Yeah, we'll be started by Arky here for the meantime, though. OMG's jungler. As he kicks this one off, just note that mid's pretty even, but bot is shoving, so pulls this window out knowing that he can't really be punished for it until the flash is burned in the mid lane with the Emperor's Divide. And Irma going to take that summoner for free.
I mean, the big problem is it seems like OMG just doesn't know what's happening. They are going to get a bit of a trade because Hacker does know that Aki's red buff should be spawning now, so going to give up an early Drake and pick this one up. One thing I want to look out for is what Rift we are going to get, because if we do get the Ocean Rift, we've already seen this combo where we have an Aatrox with a Lilia who could go that Moonstone Renewer, and then with something like an Ocean Soul, it is a bit toxic, Hysterics.
Oh, it is, isn't it? You know, we've had so many conversations, and we've seen so many Aatroxes in the LPL who just, you talk about Gore Drinker, Spirit Visage, Sterix Gage, you know, the Death's Dance there for an option. There are so many native healing items in League of Legends right now that that's why Aatrox has plummeted back in. He's got a good item choice.
I mean, we even think about Olaf, whose W increases healing from all sources,
Yeah.
so just comboing with something like the Gore Drink or the Sterix, even so much better. But I want it. I want the Moonstone Lilia once again.
I know you do. We've got an amplifying tome there. Not going to show too much for now. Just note, in the LPL, we've seen the Moonstone Renewer, and we've usually seen like the Zhonya's Hourglass still partnered with it. So past the Mythic, there has been a bit of a trend. 90% of games, the Zhonya's has come out when we've seen Lilia. We already talked about Lilia. She's got a pretty high win rate in the LPL too. 8-2 right now, Lyric. So stats throw in your face.
And we see Cold trying to put some pressure on mid, but when you do have an Azir in the mid lane, he could just so easily dash away. Also having his flash available, you don't really have any pressure to threaten that. But eStar are going to start this Herald, and OMG are posturing like they want to fight.
There is a ward in the back of the pit. Eric's walking down, so no AD carry. The Swell Seed flies through. His News trying to come in as well. Smite is available, and Hacker just needs to land it down, waiting, gets it. Shockwave in there as well as eStar. Now going to get slept down. No one's picked up the Herald, but they don't care. The fight's more important with First Blood going down to Big Bad Viking. As Wooming wants to follow up, but OMG, they didn't have their AD carry. They walked back in, and eStar don't care. They're going to keep walking forward.
Yeah, really nice play coming out from the side of eStar. Another dynamic I really like about their comp is something we started to see there, where they can take these very scrappy close-range brawls with, again, the Renekton and the Olaf, things of this nature. But then once they disengage the fight, they still have tools to posture with the Azir and kind of poke out the enemy and stop any potential re-engage coming out from OMG.
It's always good when we talk about space being created within these compositions. A lot of the time we've mentioned that. And, you know, with the Azir ulti, it's used at the end of the, or rather the middle of the play. And eStar come out on top. The First Blood goes over to the jungle Olaf and Hacker. And the rest of the map benefits too. We just saw a turret plating go to ZS. We just saw the wave caught by Irma, who's up 20 CS. So big brain across the board for eStar.
And this also just goes to what we expected in this series, right? To where eStar have looked like the more cohesive team. Hackers kind of looked like the better jungler overall. And to be fair, eStar have kept a lot of pieces from their previous roster together, so there's a bit more synergy. Whereas for OMG, again, it is that kind of jumble of a bunch of players with different play styles from different teams.
Yeah, OMG, the island of misfit toys, if you missed that opening segment. It still feels like the perfect name to categorize OMG at this point.
Also, a very nostalgic movie, if you haven't seen it. I mean, I guess if you haven't seen it, it's not nostalgic for you, but it's nostalgic for me.
Released in like 2001 or something. I will say, I think it's more...
Feels older than that, but yeah, I think you're right. 2001.
I still don't think I've seen it. It's one of those movies where I feel like, you're like, I've probably seen it, but it wasn't good enough for me to remember. So, I don't know if that's an insult to one of your favorite movies. It was Disney, I think.
Not one of my favorites, but ZS and New...
Here's Dominus again.
They're just kind of handshaking in the top lane, not much coming down. It looks like they're hoping for him to all in onto New. Aki gonna wait in the brush, and it's at least going to allow New to safely get this wave into turret and allow the bounce back.
But meanwhile, you gotta look at what Hacker's doing. He's waiting mid with the Herald. Shalcy and Rat have moved as well. Respect paid by Wooming, who doesn't want to get caught out, as Eric and Cold know something's afoot.
Yeah, and this is a play that eStar actually can make on mid because, you know, Wooming isn't a mobile champion. He doesn't have flash up as well, so it does seem like they're timing that summoner quite well. Aren't able to necessarily do anything. Like you said, OMG's bot lane read it well. eStar saw that there was no one showing in the bottom lane, so they realized, hey, this is a risky play. Let's just back off.
And the lanes continue winning. 20 CS now for Irma, and he's 115 at 12 minutes into the game. He'll clear this. He'll be neck and neck with the time as he misses that last minion. Close enough, I'll say. Hacker now changing his path as New going to go into World End. Does this result in kills? ZS gets the sun down, Undertow at the ready. Chilling Smite for the slow. He flashes away, but remember, this wave can be cleared and the Herald's in the back pocket.
Overall, eStar just continuing this high-pressure game, right? We're seeing them push out bot, hover to mid. Mid then gets pushed. You can then send your jungle to top side. It does look like they're going to drop this Herald top to put some more gold onto ZS. OMG at least going to make a good trade in response, realizing, hey, we can't counter-punch them on the top side of the map. We need to get an objective out of this on the bottom side.
Which will be placed out on the top side eventually with the Herald. The bottom side you mentioned with the Dragon. Least leads OMG to that double Dragon to start game off. You wanted to see the Ocean Lyric, of course, for OMG's composition. We're going to get that answer very shortly. Shalcy is going to try and cue that one. We've seen that in the LPL before, but no dice. And there you go. Ocean Dragon now presents a new opportunity for OMG.
Obviously, this would be great for either composition. You have Renekton and Olaf on one side. Even going to be having that Rakan as well, who obviously does provide some healing. But again, just what we saw the other day with Lilia, Aatrox, and then Ocean Soul was really disgusting to watch, which would make you think I don't want to see it again, but I absolutely do. It would be really fun to see, but we're starting to have Mythics come out for the side of eStar. Obviously, the double Gold Drinker already on top side, so if we have any 5v5 skirmishes or 2v2s or 3v3s on top side, it's going to be heavily in favor of eStar.
Yeah, absolutely, especially when we get towards those first Mythics. And you mentioned the Gold Drinker already, but I am referring to how Rat and Irma's actually getting to that point too. Pretty close to the first item. I'll be curious to see what we get from the Azir because, you know, we've seen things like Nash's Tooth along there, but if we're talking Mythics, Liandry's Lyric, Luden's, if you want more lane potential, what do you want to see?
We have been seeing more Liandry's come out in terms of pro play, but it's typically been Liandry's into the Nashor's Tooth build that we've been seeing a lot of, but for the side of OMG, they aren't too tanky, so if he did want to go something like Luden's, I wouldn't be too surprised, but I think, Cole.
It is a Rakan, though, so we can turn this play. OMG have walked into the choke with Rat there. They're going to get a double man knock-up, and Eric getting low with the Ignite. Xiaoxi backs away, and this is why you don't chase a Rakan. As Cold at half health still wants to escape, Rat, all he needs is a second skin, and flashing away, Cold almost in a straight line. And OMG bite the bullet.
And eStar going to turn this into an invade into the bottom side jungle. Aki shouldn't be in any threat, but during that play, that's why I said, ooh, Cole did not owe Xiaoxi, because, I mean, OMG didn't have any vision of where the rest of the eStar members were, so was extremely aggressive. Maybe they thought that they'd be able to burst out Xiaoxi, but he still also had his flash up, so would be able to get away in pretty much any instance just fine. And OMG still the ones to be benefiting off this massive gold lead, sitting at 4K. The tried and true trade we've talked about many times. OMG continuously going for these early plays for gold, where OMG just have to accept the dragon. We do see here that OMG's bot lane think they find a pick onto the Rakan. They don't have vision on anyone else on the side of eStar other than for the Azir, so they do get baited in. Eric's already too far gone, tries to throw out the ult to salvage something, but ends up going down in the end.
I mean, what do? You're 4,000 gold behind just about. 15 minutes in the game, double Herald's going to go over. And you don't think that OMG are going to be able to contest the Dragon coming up with the lead that's just been established. And Lyric, it's looking dicey here, but eStar, you got to say, been looking clean to kick off this series.
eStar definitely showing that they are not in this bottom of the barrel, like 14th through 17th place teams. They do have a strong foundation built. They're one of our more aggressive early game teams as we've seen, which, you know, 2 kills in 16 minutes might not highlight, but oh god. Did
we do this again? All right, well, not bottom of the barrel, but maybe not a top team. I don't know.
God.
Oh, it's going to time out as well. Oh my god.
Well, you know, I might have said they're not 14th through 17th, but let's just change that too. They're not the 17th. They're not the 17th place team in LPL. Oh god.
Well, I'm glad our observer caught that. Props there. They don't get the second Herald, but hey, let's be optimistic.
It's here. They're just trying to style on OMG. They don't need the Herald. Yeah. They don't need these dragons, Heralds. Those are for chump teams. We're just gonna win through kills, gold, and lots of action. Which I mean, I'm over exaggerating because there's only 2 kills, but
it definitely you know, a bit of a solo queue game coming out then, that's for sure. eStar at the very least, if they're styling on them, then they don't care. Then they're trying to make the game competitive, because OMG right now not doing too much. But you also talked about this with their comp. You know, they want to get in those full 5-on-5, so we weren't expecting to see much 2v2s or 1v1s coming through this game, especially from them.
The big thing, right, was when you have these comps that you just kind of want to function around the 5v5 fights in front of neutral objectives, whoever starts getting off to that early lead is typically going to be the team who then starts to force the upcoming objectives. And OMG realized that, right? They realized, oh, hey, they've had the gold lead. Packers have higher tempo than us. They've had push in mid. They got the early kills. And OMG have just continuously chosen to concede. So I think it'll be really rough for OMG to come back into this game.
It'll be questionable to see if they can find this fight at the very least. Lyric, I'm waiting for Xiaoxi once again. The player we talked about has had pretty good engages so far. Let's see. OMG is a 5-stack in front of this dragon. And ladies and gentlemen, you want some action? Let's see that team fight come up as the dragon is waiting. Cold getting poked down. and already a good poke of a start from eStar.
Yeah, it's really fun to see, too. We're just seeing Azir and Kai'Sa throw out their poke abilities, already chunking down Cold. So, again, the flexibility of the comp that we've talked about. And it feels like the ball's in OMG's court. They need to be the one to force this if they want to be able to come out with a teamfight win.
Dragon resets for the most part. OMG still here. Healing up is good. But no one's really committed. We're just doing this dance with pants.
The thing is, eStar can just turn to mid wave and push that in like what they're doing. We do see OMG pushing out bot, but eStar definitely feeling like they have the more significant pressure here. Oh, Xiaoxi's looking for a flank.
Okay, going to go down 4K. Swell Seed's out as well, and OMG, for the most part, still going to be hitting this dragon down. Eric's there, and for the steal, Ragnarok into the pit. He just takes it away. Does he care? No, Shockwave whiffs as well. Emperor's Divide sandwiches, and Xiaoxi gets the backline engaged. This is over, ladies and gentlemen. It was what I would say. If Eric didn't just find the Samira ult, this champion is absolutely busted when there's not enough CC. eStar get wiped. Xiaoxi gets knocked up. Eric's on the follow-up, and you know what? Samira wins the play.
I mean, it definitely felt like more of a blunder on eStar's end, Hysterics. They definitely have the CC to lock Samira down. Obviously, a lot of it just coming out early. The Emperor's Divide, the Renekton W. Xiaoxi wasn't even in the play when it started, as we saw him use his W to try to escape. So, a bit of a fail on the side of eStar. Nice to see it coming out from Eric, though, realizing, hey, a lot of these tools are down. Xiaoxi's not here, and we're going to see it in the replay. You pointed out the Olaf just running in. He is a level higher, does get that smite steal. Xiaoxi, though, initially locking down with the ultimate, ease in. No W used on the Samira yet, is able to just kind of weave around this fight. Again, Renekton W is already down. We already saw Emperor's Divide used, and it allowed Eric to really just kind of dictate the pace of this team fight.
I mean, look, he got a very good ultimate. We give credit to Eric, but at the end of the day, when there's no CC for Samira, she just sprays away. And 3-1 and 2, now has a CS lead, now has a kill lead. And the gold is back to near even when OMG were 4,000, 5,000 behind, even after losing the Dragon.
It also was a bit disappointing for eStar that, like, we see the Emperor's Divide come out, push people away, and then Rakan Charm just kind of locks them all down when it wasn't really needed at that point.
Very true. We're going to see a fight again, though, Lyric. Unfortunately, you don't get to talk. Xiaoxi tries to engage, and eStar, maybe not all on the same page.
Yeah, we didn't see Irma here yet. Hacker was kind of in a position where he could follow up, but still jumping right onto the Alistar, obviously able to just use Pulverize and then instantly burst out Xiaoxi.
All right, so what happens now? Because the script is flipped. ZS is going to get away here, and you can't follow this up. But now that OMG are back to Mythic Point, back to item discrepancies being pretty nullified, it does feel like the next couple of Dragons are going to feel good. That, you know, the next Baron, if it gets started up, is a fight that OMG could now win.
Oh, definitely. And again, it's going to come a lot down to execution. We are seeing Aki head towards that Moonstone Renewer, so I think for OMG it's going to be a lot more favorable once they get to that point in these extended skirmishes. But the question will always be, hey, are eStar able to lock down the Samira? If they are, I really think they'll be able to win the fight unless Wooming hits something like a 4 or 5 man Shockwave. So a lot of this is going to come down to eStar's coordination and like ability, like usage on target selection. So at least the game is going to stay very close and interesting going forward, and it's not going to be the one-sided kind of stomp that it was looking like it could potentially be.
But there is one thing that we need to note, is that there needs to be some kind of response to Eric, excuse me, where, you know, Xiaoxi got that good ult before, but it wasn't on the target that came through and shredded everyone. So a lot of the time, you know, Samira's weakness has been that CC we talked about. So we'll keep an eye out for people like Xiaoxi, people like ZS as well, or even the Emperor's Divide that can stop that, and how they negate the play that just came through. Because if Samira's left free, she now has a Collector, and Collector will work on that ultimate. So we're just going to see.
To be fair, though, a lot of it is also about timing on Eric's end, because, you know, if you mistime it, you go in a bit too early. Doesn't even necessarily matter about CC. If you're jumping into the likes of Renekton and Olaf, you can just get instantly bursted out. So it's going to come down to a lot of like minute details in these 5v5s. The 5v5s are still where everything's going to take place. Neither of these compositions really indexing into side lanes or pick potential. So again, we're going to kind of have to keep our hand on the pulse of when these neutral objectives are coming up. Of course, we are seeing Ocean come up in 40 seconds, but more items coming out on both sides. Lilia hitting the 2-item point. Irma was just able to back and get that Nashor's Tooth as well. So both compositions feeling pretty strong at this point.
Also, burst of AP onto this Orianna in Wooming, because Wooming has the Seraph's Embrace fully upgraded. So pretty much 2 items on the core members that you want to see. Steric's Gauge for Hacker, got even a bit more sustainability in that front line as they want to make a play onto New in the bottom lane. But Xiaoxi playing with fate, because the rest of OMG are walking down with 10 seconds left until the dragon spawns.
And again, we need to keep our eyes onto the likes of Eric. But the great thing for OMG is they just have so much, like, wombo combo sort of ultimates, right? If Aki can hit a 5-man sleep, if Lumi can hit a 3 or 4-man shockwave, just those abilities alone can change the wave of a fight.
Level 12 versus level 12 in the jungle. It's the upcoming fight, even on the smite standpoint. Aki's not going to get the scuttle either, so Dragon still yet to be started. eStar on the back end with teleport being burned by New.
And I want to see if Xiaoxi wants to look for a potential flank again, or if he just wants to play front to back. I don't think Rakan in this instance really needs to look for a flank. You know OMG are going to run into you.
4K going in for the engage. Cold first. Double man knock up on the back end as well. Where's Eric? He's still here with 1600 on the Dragon. Cold gets low. Shockwave only onto one, but it's Irma. He uses the ultimate, sends it back into the team. That's kind of ending Lyric, because now Eric has a fun time yet again. Onto ZS. You'll get another one there as Hacker is left by his lonesome. The Dragon goes over to eStar, but the fight is kaput.
And now OMG going to be able to turn this into a Baron. Doesn't mean too much if they didn't get the Dragon. They can start being the team that starts snowballing this gold lead. Only losing 1 member in Cold, a massive win.
6-1-5, 3-0 and 7. Count the scores, count OMG. And maybe count eStars out, because with the gold lead with Baron, this game got a hell of a lot harder for the blue side.
Yeah, and OMG having a lot of like wave clear and siege potential coming out from that Orianna. Still, it's going to be a bit hard for them to break down a lot of those inner turrets. It's still going to come down to if they want to look for things like dives, but we are going to jump straight into the replay. eStar get a bit separated with the Olaf running in first, and then, I mean, Azir Irma just gets caught by the shockwave, and this is a completely split fight with New and Eric able to jump to one side of the fight, while Wooming and the Lilia, I'm sorry, on the opposite end, just able to clean up.
That was a great thing to behold. That's all.
That was all over the place, Asterix. That was all over the place,
Yeah,
is what I'm going to say.
a great thing to behold. You see my lack of confidence in complimenting that one. Look, hey, what we know is OMG in a commanding position after this game. Looked like it was done at 15 minutes in, but we now have a Samira with Infinity Edge. We have an Oblivion Orb on the side of Wooming. Magi's with 8 stacks for all the big chieftains in the jungle. Look at Aki. He's feeling it, and OMG can't put a foot wrong with the way this is going anymore. And Silen's getting pushed in, Lyric, while mid feels comfortable.
You know, OMG playing this 1-4 setup, right, you're going to be able to easily take this top lane outer turret while they do have Lilia hovering in the jungle. ZS should be able to at least get something in return for bot side, but OMG definitely going to be able to push in much faster. Again, the big problem is that OMG don't really have a lot of long-range tools to actually perform a siege, especially up against the likes of something like an Azir, so it's going to come down to a lot if they can use tempo, create picks in this top side jungle, or if they do just want to rotate and look for a 5-man or even 3-man dive onto this Azir.
At least part of the crucial play is leaving vision open, clearing it out rather for OMG's standpoint. You can see a lot of blind spots here for eStar. Xiaoxi trying to claw his way back in with the ward to spot rotation.
ZS!
And maybe one of these wards to play them well. Here comes the flank. Dominus use. He's a speedy boy onto Eric. They want to kill this Samira, but the bot comes out from Cold to zone him away. The pulverize as well. Cold's going to take one for the team as Eric is still zoned out without too much lifesteal. They go back in and Cold will die first. Eric knocked up yet again, but Aki in with the sleep. Now it comes through onto 2 people. Hacker and ZS, down they go. As Samira bopped in again, but this time eStar still have Rat on the back end with New boppling away. That's not English, I know, but eStar now want to turn the fight onto Irma, who's on the back end, and New heals up so much. These fights have been messier than a pie on your face for New Year's Eve, with a triple kill going over to New, and ZS and you are going to fight it out. This is the silliest game of the split. I'll call it now. He'll get dunked, and that was bloody insane.
And I'm honestly not sure how to break that one down, hysterics. Top laners ending up in a 1v1 scenario. They, like, Renekton just goes down. Supports are already back up. That's how extended that fight was.
Well, good luck analyzing that, sir, because you know you're going to get a replay and you're going to go for about a minute telling us why OMG, quote-unquote, won the fight.
I mean, it's kind of funny that we still just end up in a position where, you know, not too much mattered in that fight. You get an injection of gold into certain champions on both sides. It just matters that, hey, Dragon is coming up in 50 seconds. It does look like eStar are technically having more members back out on the map first, but they're not heading towards that bottom side river, so OMG at least are going to have a lot of vision control already set up. But here's this replay. The one thing that stood out to me at first is that Cole does such a good job of buying a lot of time, not allowing them to get on Eric. A lot of cooldowns already expended. They then jump in. Sadly, the Orianna not able to hit a great shockwave. So again, a bit of low value on that. We do see New going forward and just getting a lot of cooldowns out from the side of eStar. Eric jumps in, gets immediately bursted out, so things started to look pretty good for the side of eStar. But in this extended fight, we saw New able to get a lot of resets with those Gore Drinkers. Thank you, Observer, that we don't have to keep going as OMG are pushing the bot side.
That Gore Drinker was so OP. He's got Spirit Visage, he's got Asterix Gauge, and the Moonstone Renewer from Lilius. So Aatrox at this point pretty much doesn't die, and he's got a stopwatch as well to get that cooldown back up. Now, while I'm having a chat here, OMG do move to Soul Point with the Ocean Dragon. If they get Ocean Soul, this one gets put in the bin, and we're going to game 2.
Yeah, we're in a very, I'd say, even place. Again, OMG leading a few thousand gold, but I'd say OMG probably have a bit better scaling from the fact that eStar obviously were Renekton and Olaf. Their scaling isn't as bad as it was in past seasons with things like Gore Drinker coming in, but still, Lily going to do quite well, providing so much utility. We've seen the kind of menace that Aatrox can be, but ultimately, when our fights have been a bit fiesta-y, it does feel like the player with better hands is going to come out on top.
Better hands wins. Lyric, World Ender used, but he TPs anyway. ZS, is he going to get the stun? No. I guess the World Ender in case he got caught, but he's out. And he didn't want to take the 1v5, which honestly, I think he could have come close to winning.
Not too sure about that one, but
skepticism, okay.
Yeah, just to hit a bit on items again, I like that we've had the Oblivion Orbs out for a while. A lot of healing on both sides, and we're seeing both mid laners head towards that Void Staff. Wooming already sitting on his. Irma only sitting on the Blighting Jewel, so a very cheap and efficient item coming out in that regard, especially when both sides are going to be building Spirit Visages as well to just increase the healing further.
And Void Staff is the difference in completion there on the side of Wooming. Level advantage as well. I know we haven't been talking too much about the CS discrepancies, especially with Eric at 310 at 31 minutes into the game is quite impressive. Because Eric has really revitalized into this game, and in this next coming fight, Lyric, it feels like we might have to talk about him as Baron starts.
Yeah, OMG having great turn potential coming out from the Alistar. Cold is ready and waiting.
Hacker's there, he's a beefy boy, and the Viking gets bopped back. Cold running in first without the rest of the team. Two-man pulverizer, Shalcy in for the flanking position. Rakan gets everyone up with the quickness as right. Is zoned out, hit by Eric, who heals up. Now it's time to hit that S ranking. It's a double kill. It's Irma with the ulti again, but into the backline. It doesn't matter. It goes all the way of OMG, but left with Wooming and Shalcy. It ends up being Wooming favored. New comes in. Again, he doesn't die, because this Aatrox is the embodiment of hell on earth. You believe in that stuff? Well, you do now. New will dunk him, and that's the full-blown ace.
I'm kind of disappointed ZS wasn't able to get Wooming, so we could have had the 1v1 between top laners once again, but New ultimately being the one to come out on top and take over. Eric and New just having phenomenal teamfight performances. We're gonna have them start this two-man Baron. Cold already up and on his way over. I would expect OMG to be able to pick this one up. I just wonder if eStar's members will even try to funnel here once they do get off those respawns.
Better lifestealer wins. that's my assumption of this game. He's going to use World Endo. That's just going to give him that extra bit of oomph as teleport being burned. Cold sitting on him. This cow means business, and he just bops Irma away. Irma wanted the kill, and Cole's not going to let him have it as he runs back to the farm, hopefully to just give some milk, because OMG, they got plenty of buckets here ready to finish whatever analogy I started.
You know, if Cold had known that the other members of eStar weren't closer, he could have just pulverized him, and honestly, OMG could have just picked up another free kill, but he took the safe play. He didn't know where the other members of eStar were, so he just bops him away, and now OMG able to walk away. They're slowly increasing this gold advantage, but hey, Dragon once again up in about a minute, so we're gonna get another team fight.
And you know what? Xiaoxi's been caught. Sleep's going to be put down as well, and just because that's on the support doesn't mean it's not big, because it's massive. Xiaoxi will drop immediately. Ragnarok, Chilling Smite used. Remember, that's not going to do too much, but Hacker still slowed by the Swell Seed. Cold waiting for the headbutt Pulverize to get in front of him. Doesn't end up working. Unbreakable Will there. He flashes immediately, bops him back into the team, and Hacker doesn't have that ulti, as we just saw. He will eventually drop down as OMG have a numbers advantage. Going in, healer number 1 in ZS is here, but into the backline. Samira presses R, goes golden, and I think Eric may have sacrificed his life. Little bit inty, but news here. And even with the turret, he's not going to die. Cold going forward, and this Fiesta is no longer a siesta in the LPL. New gets set up for the double kill for Wooming. Give him the triple kill, and OMG are now going to run it home.
Yeah, OMG just taking over with these team fights. Death timers are probably too long. OMG should be able to close out this game.
Eventually, we could get there, Lyric. 40 kills, 34 minutes. This is what we remember about the LPL, just not the style, we could say. As the first Nexus turret goes down, the Nexus turret number 2 at the ready. And Xiaoxi wants to persuade this one to go even further. 1 second till OLF comes up. Everyone needs to hit the Nexus. It's getting close, but it is game 1 for OMG.
Yeah, and overall, in hindsight, kind of easier to say that it does look like the tools that eStar had just weren't enough to deal with the Samira. We saw Rakan, probably a lot of the pitfalls that we're not seeing Rakan in the meta of just how squishy he is, especially going with these builds like Imperial Mandate. We saw many times he tried to engage and Alistar would just kind of combo him and he'd get instantly deleted.